So can you tell me who you are and what you do?
I'm Erick Nylund. I write science fiction and fantasy novels, and my day job is senior writer at Microsoft Game Studios.
And could you give me an idea of what you do day to day at Microsoft?
I do it all. Write manuals, README files, game scripts, combat chatter.
So what first drew you to writing?
Writing. I was in graduate school getting my PhD in chemistry, and I read this really bad book by an author I adored, and I got through it, and I realized the only reason it ever got published, because it was so bad, because of the guy's name. And I thought, how hard could this be? So I was in this mode where I had to go to the library and learn like a branch of mathematics in a month. Like, okay, go learn complex analysis. Okay. So I said, well, I'll just go learn how to write. And so I read over 200 books on how to write fiction, a lot of good Harlan Ellison essays, and that got me going. And I wrote my first novel that way, Pawn's Dream, and I really dug it. And I dropped out of college, became very poor for a couple of years, and just started cranking out novels.
You mentioned a little bit about your background in science and chemistry. Could you give us a little bit of frame of reference there, where your interests are?
In science?
Yeah, where they originated and where they are now.
Oh, where they originated? I don't know. You know, I always, as a kid, I always dug science. I always dug bugs and, reptiles and paleontology and rocks. You know, the stuff that every kid does. And so I just pursued that in college. Into more and more theoretical chemical physics, until one summer I found myself at Fermilab for a couple of weeks, watching protons and antiprotons being collided together almost at the speed of light.
You focused a lot on science fiction and fantasy. What drew you to that aspect of writing? Where was your interest there?
Well, a couple of reasons. One, I had a natural advantage for writing science fiction because I had a huge science background. My classical mechanics class at UCSD was with Sally Ride, who was the first female astronaut. So all the orbital mechanics stuff in the Halo books, taught to me by a real astronaut, which is kind of cool. That and science fiction has kind of a predisposition to put a spotlight on societal problems and events, because you can kind of go forward in time and look back on how our problems today kind of can balloon into real troubles in the future. Whereas fantasy has more of a psychological bent to it, because you can use magic and all those things to reveal the character's mind a little bit more.
What drew you to Halo specifically? Was there something specific that drew you there?
A guy named Eric Troutman. He used to work at Microsoft in the franchise division, and he was responsible for getting the Halo book program off the ground. And he and I had worked together before on some of the Crimson Skies stuff, the early PC game. And he wanted to get a novel program going. So he came down to my office and said, would I be interested? And he showed me my first glimpse of Halo, which was a fascinating game, even in the early stages back then. And I was sucked in. But then he said I had to write the novel for him in 7 weeks.
Like the legend of the Phoenix, all ends with beginnings.